sophomores. This is my third time recording this video today because it just keeps deleting. So I really hope this works this time and we can just get on with it. Okay. Today we're going to be talking about pronoun antecedent agreement. This is a commonly misused grammatical rule. People do not seem to get this right often. Um, Parts of it are very easy and straightforward, and then parts of it are a little bit tricky. So if you have a printer and you can print this out, please do that. If you don't, just make some notes in a notebook. That would be helpful to you. This is something that the ACT tests over, and also, as you go throughout your schooling at Assumption and beyond, this is something that's going to be expected of you as a writer to be able to do this. Also, this is one of those rules that comes into play when you're speaking as well. So, like I said, many people get this wrong. These are common. It's a commonly misused or misinterpreted grammatical rule. So if you can get this right, you will wow future employers and just people in general. So this is something that you'll probably have to work on. It's not something that comes super naturally. It's something that I've had to consciously work on over the years, but I have gotten much better at it because I have consciously worked on this. So let's go ahead and get started. First of all, we're talking about pronoun antecedent agreement today. Last semester we talked about pronouns. Remember? Pronouns, we talked about pronoun case in first, second, and third person pronouns. So first person pronouns are, for example, I, me, we, us, our, ours. Second person, you and yours. Third person, talking about somebody else, he, she, it, they, them, their. There's more, okay, but those are just some examples. So every pronoun has what you call an antecedent, and the word antecedent, I know it's not written on here, so write this down somewhere. Normally I would just write this on the board and talk about this, but the word antecedent is actually derived from Latin roots. So ante actually means before. You would think it means after because it starts with an A, but it means before. And then cedent is derived from Latin roots also, and cedent means going. So antecedent together means going before. So every pronoun has an antecedent. Okay, so a pronoun, what does a pronoun do? It takes the place of a noun in a sentence, right? And the reason you use pronouns is because if you didn't, it would sound like Susie is really fun. Susie is really nice. I'd like to be friends with Susie, right? You just keep repeating the same noun over and over again, but you can replace that noun with a pronoun and say, Susie is really nice. She is also very smart. I'd like to be friends with her, right? So we have those types of rules with pronouns, but every pronoun has an antecedent, and the pronoun and the antecedent must agree. Okay, they must agree in three areas. They must agree in person, so either they both need to be either first, second, or third person pronouns. They have to agree in number. Is the pronoun singular or is it plural? And they also have to agree in gender. Is the pronoun male or female? Okay, so for example here, let me show you what an antecedent and a pronoun is. So in this first sentence, it says, Cal brought his gerbil to school. If I were to ask you to find the pronoun in the sentence, the pronoun is his, right? So the antecedent is what the pronoun refers to. So who is his, right? It's Cal, okay? So Cal is the antecedent in the sentence, all right? So Cal brought his gerbil to school. Cal, what do we know about Cal? Remember, it has to agree in three ways, right? So Cal, is it first, second, or third person? We're talking about Cal, so Cal is third person. So is his, right? His is a third person pronoun. Also number, is Cal singular or plural? Cal is singular. We're talking about one person. We're talking about one Cal. So is his. His is also a singular pronoun, right? And gender, is Cal a male or a female? I suppose Cal could also be a female, but in this case, we're going to say that we know Cal is a male, so we're going to use a male pronoun. Okay, so Cal brought his gerbil to school. Okay. Now we have, this one's a more tricky one, and we're going to wait on that. We're going to do that one once we get down here into this box. Okay, so we're going to skip that one. We're going to come down here. So Cal brought his gerbil to school. That one was pretty easy and straightforward. Some of them are. Some of them are not. This one is probably one that people would get wrong oftentimes. This one says a person should be allowed to pursue his or her interests. Person is singular, okay? You would think that if you were writing or speaking the sentence, you would want to say a person should be allowed to pursue their interests, but that's wrong, right? Because person is singular and their is plural. So you would actually have to say a person should be allowed to pursue his or her interests. Also, why his or her? Why not just his or her? Because person, are we talking about a male or a female? We don't know. So you have to use both the male and the female pronoun to refer to the antecedent. That's also where a lot of people get it wrong. Okay? In the corporate world today, or in the business world today, when you're writing contracts, or companies are, pushing out an email to all of their employers, or they're addressing their employers, oftentimes companies will actually get this pronoun antecedent agreement wrong on purpose so that they can be politically correct. Now, in the year 2020, there's a lot of people that don't want to be defined as a him or a her, right? So instead, companies use the plural form and they say their because it's more all-encompassing, right? So even though they know they're grammatically incorrect, they do it anyway so that they can be politically correct. However, it's still wrong. It's still grammatically wrong, okay? The ACT is still going to test you on this. When you're writing, you're still going to be tested on this. And, in the future, when you're interviewing for a job, if you can use this language correctly, it's going to help you out quite a bit, okay? So you will see it in different various places, and it will be incorrect, but you just have to make sure that you understand the difference of it, okay? So if you think that's awkward to say a person should be allowed to pursue his or her interests, which I'm sure a lot of you do think that's awkward and you're cringing at the thought of having to be so proper, then you can always rewrite the sentence and say people should be allowed to pursue their interests. That's correct. It's saying basically the same thing. You're just changing your antecedent to be plural so that you can use a plural pronoun. Okay? Same thing, just written a little bit differently, and you have that option as a writer. Okay? Now, this is where it can get tricky, and I'm going to come back to this part as well. Okay? This is where it can get tricky when you're talking about indefinite pronouns. So there are a number of different pronouns we can use when we don't want to or are unable to specify exactly what we're talking about. And this is when we use singular indefinite pronouns. The pronouns in this box are all examples of singular indefinite pronouns. They're not all of them. There's more. Okay, but these are most commonly used ones, and when I look up what the ACT uses, these are the most commonly used singular indefinite pronouns on the ACT. Okay, so when you use a singular indefinite pronoun as an antecedent, you also need to make sure that you have a singular pronoun to follow it. Okay, so for example, down here, this is giving you examples of singular indefinite pronouns, okay? Anyone wishing to buy tickets for the play should see his or her teacher. That's correct. It doesn't sound right, probably, because you would want to say anyone wishing to buy tickets should see their teacher. But that's not grammatically correct. All right, so you need to say his or her because you're using a singular indefinite pronoun. To explain a little bit further, these singular indefinite pronouns are singular because It doesn't let us know exactly, one, how many, two, what gender, or three, what person the specific pronoun is that we're talking about. So instead of using those all-encompassing plural pronouns, you have to use singular pronouns. Everyone on the football team gave me his water bottle. Everyone sounds like it would be plural, right? You're talking about everyone, but it's a singular indefinite pronoun. And when it's not specific, you need to use a singular pronoun to follow it. When the antecedent is not specific, and in this case, using this singular indefinite pronoun as your antecedent is not specific enough. So that's why you have to use a singular pronoun to follow. Okay. Now, you could argue with me and say, well, Miss Mack, it's 2020, and there are also girls that play on football teams now. I understand that. Touche, you're correct. However, if you're pretty positive that this team, this football team, is all composed of boys, then you can use a male pronoun to follow. That's fine, okay? If there were a girl on Assumption's football team, then in that case, I wouldn't be able to say his. I would have to say his or her. Same thing with now our wrestling team. We're going to have girls on our wrestling team. So I wouldn't, if this sentence said everyone on the wrestling team, I would have to say his or her water bottle, right? Nobody likes to do his or her schoolwork. Again, that sounds crazy because nobody sounds like you're talking about so many people, right? But it's still a singular indefinite pronoun, so you need singular pronouns to follow, okay? Now, if we go back up here again, let's see, here's where it can get kind of tricky, okay? You have here the word neither. So neither is actually a singular indefinite pronoun, but you actually specify who exactly you're talking about here, right? Neither the manager nor the players. All right, so is it neither the manager nor the players were crazy about his or her new uniform or their new uniform? In this case, where you have one singular and the next one plural, you have to refer to the antecedent that is nearest the pronoun. So in this case, players is nearest the pronoun, and players is plural, so you would need a plural pronoun. In this case, you just flip-flop the sentence, and this one sounds really strange, but it's grammatically correct. Neither the players nor the manager was crazy about his or her new uniforms. Because again, you're using the antecedent nearest the pronoun, and manager is singular. Now, if I could help it, I would just rewrite the sentence to make it say neither the manager nor the players were crazy about their new uniforms, because I don't think this one sounds very good. But sometimes you don't have that option, right? Here, up here, you have is either Connor or Grace bringing his or her glove to the baseball game. You've got one boy, we're going to say one boy, and one girl. So you have to still say his or her, right? If you look at the bottom down here, it says to use indefinite pronouns cautiously. Whenever you can be specific when you're writing, be specific, okay? Now, I'm going to run out of time on this video, so I want to save this video, but I still want to go over a couple more sentences from your worksheet with the key. So take a look at the second video. The second video will be really short.